There was always something hopeful about the start of a new year, a sense of fresh beginnings, of doors opening to brighter possibilities. But this year, that feeling came crashing down with a single unexpected moment. The sharp chime of the doorbell shattered the peaceful silence of my cozy little house. Absent-mindedly, I walked to the door, expecting a late courier or perhaps a neighbor needing a favor. Instead, I found two faces from my past. Two faces I had worked so hard to forget. My gut twisted painfully, and my heart seemed to sink into the pit of my stomach. Standing on my porch as if summoned from the darkest corners of my memories were my sister Claire and my ex-husband Ethan. Claire's ever-present, insufferable smirk curled her lips, her expression almost triumphant. She stood there as though she had won a prize only she understood, and Ethan's expression was a toxic cocktail of smugness and insincere sympathy, the kind of look that made my skin crawl. He leaned casually as if we were old friends reconnecting, not two people bound by betrayal. 3 years. It had been 3 years since I had last seen them, but their presence still felt like a blade twisting in an unhealed wound. My mind raced with questions. Why are you here? What do you want? My lips parted, but all I could manage was a shaky whisper. Claire's laugh cut through the air, shrill and grating like nails dragging across a chalkboard. "Oh, look, Ethan," she sneered, her voice dripping with mockery. "She can't even speak. Anna, what's the matter? Aren't you happy to see your oh-so-devoted ex-husband and your loving sister?" Behind me, Ethan shifted, leaning against the doorframe as his eyes roamed casually around my living room, as if this intrusion was nothing more than a social call. The air between us felt suffocating, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved pain. "Yes, Anna, we simply wanted to stop over and see how things are going at the old place without us." I fought the want to smash the door in their faces by clenching my fists. "You have no business here, Claire, and this is no longer your place, Ethan." When I tried to maintain my position, their smirks simply got bigger. The next thing Ethan said was a slap. "I truly regret ever binding myself to you. My best years were wasted." With faux pity in her voice, Claire added her voice. "Anna, poor thing. Even in marriage, the underachiever is always the one." Their harsh remarks hurt, but before I could react, we were all startled by a voice behind us. "Anna, who's at the door?" It wasn't until later that night that I realized it was my father, George. Claire and Ethan were caught off guard by his sudden appearance. They changed their stance awkwardly, the smirks disappearing from their faces. "Dad?" I managed to say. "You're back early," in a relieved tone. As George took in the scene, his eyes narrowed. "Claire? Ethan? Why are the two of you here anywhere?" Under my father's harsh stare, their poise broke down, the self-assured exterior dissolving. A tight atmosphere hung between us for a minute. Then there was stillness. Claire's tentative voice was the only thing that shattered it. "We simply wished Anna a happy New Year." George's incredulity was evident. "Really? On New Year's Day, you suddenly recall familial relations after years of silence?" He responded in a cold tone that betrayed unsaid disappointment and rage. Ethan tried to calm himself by clearing his throat. "We did have some news, though. However, perhaps this is not the appropriate moment." I was aware that their visit went beyond simple New Year's greetings. It was all too familiar, their sudden appearance, the arrogant expressions, the covert taunts, the same old pattern of manipulation and dishonesty. I wasn't the same guy they had left behind, though, this time. With a mixture of relief and fear, I shut the door behind them as they clumsily excused themselves and said they would be back later. There was only one possible explanation for their return. Danger was building once more, and I needed to be prepared this time. The home was eerily quiet after Claire and Ethan had left. George, my father, sat across from me with a worried frown on his face. "What was that about, Anna? Why have they returned?" I let out a sigh, burdened by years of repressed recollections. "I'm not sure, Dad, but there's always a reason behind it with Claire and Ethan." George's face darkened as he nodded. "I recall how they deceived you and how things ended. Anna, you have nothing to pay them." I was grateful for his assistance. Even he, however, was not quite aware of the extent of Claire's lying and manipulation. in one particular aspect of the story. It brought to mind our early years, which ought to have been full of carefree recollections, but were unfortunately tarnished by Claire's self-centeredness. "Do you recall my 9th birthday, Dad? Grandma's porcelain doll that I received?" With a hint of grief in my voice, I inquired. George's expression grew softer. "You obviously adored the doll." I nodded, the recollection clear in my head. "Claire intentionally broke it. However," she sobbed and claimed that I was the one who knocked it over, telling Mom it was an accident. George appeared taken aback. "I was unaware of that. It was always an accident, according to your mother." I went on, the old wounds resurfacing. That was only the beginning. She consistently put the blame on me while playing the innocent. She was skilled at controlling everyone in her vicinity. George's eyes were filled with remorse as he realized what he had missed all those years. "I apologize, Anna. I ought to have realized it." "Dad, it's not your fault. Claire's deed deceived us all." I stopped and inhaled deeply. "Even when Ethan is present, she tricked us both. They are worthy of one another." George grabbed my hand and held it firmly and reassuringly. "The fact that you are no longer subjected to their poison is what counts. Avoid getting sucked back into their drama." I tried to grin as I nodded. It became evident from the talk with my father that the past was not as hidden as I had hoped. It wasn't a straightforward visit when Claire and Ethan returned. It was a sign of further unrest to follow. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Claire's machinations, how she always looked better than me in our parents' eyes, and how she had easily seduced Ethan away from me. I couldn't help but feel anxious about what lay ahead, because her return indicated that she was up to something. But amid the confusion of ideas, a resolute determination started to take shape. This time, I wouldn't be the helpless victim. Whatever game Claire and Ethan were playing, I would challenge them. I was prepared to fight back this time. I was haunted by Claire and Ethan's statements and smirks in the days after their visit. In an attempt to divert my attention, I pushed myself into my work. But the past would not be buried. Once brimming with love and promise, the memory of my marriage to Ethan now felt like a treacherous path I had been forced to walk barefoot. It got off to a lovely start. Ethan had all the qualities I believed I was looking for in a partner. He was charming and attentive. We were content, or I thought so. Subtle changes, late nights, inexplicable absences, and evasive responses followed. Ignoring the niggling misgivings and intuitional whispers, I trusted him. Then the veil came off one night. After a business trip, I came home early with a tinge of excitement about surprising Ethan. However, I was the one who was surprised. My world fell apart when I discovered Ethan and Claire together, their laughing resonating throughout our living room. The ensuing altercation was a haze of sobs, charges, and unpleasant realities. With her usual lack of regret, Claire just shrugged, her words cutting right through me. "Anna, you were always too preoccupied with your menial job. I was there for Ethan when he needed someone. Your inability to maintain your husband's attention is not our problem." Ethan's explanation was just as icy. "I believed I loved you, Anna. But Claire is unique and fascinating. We were never meant to be together. Their treachery was a double-edged blade that pierced my trust and my heart." Ethan and Claire made no secret of their romance, and the resulting divorce was swift. I felt stupid and deceived as I picked up the pieces of my shattered existence. I felt angry as I sat in my office, the memories still bothering me. After what they did, how dare they waltz back into my life? They have no right to disturb my tranquility once more. It was more than fury, though. The need for vengeance was intense. I wanted to spare them even a small portion of the suffering they had inflicted on me. Once alien and repulsive, the thought of retaliation now seemed to be the only way to end this difficult period of my life. I decided to confront them and ask for clarification. However, I wouldn't be the unprepared, devastated wife this time. I would be tough and uncompromising. On one occasion they had undervalued me. They would never again make the same error. I grabbed my cell phone and called Ethan. My resolve was unwavering and my voice steady. "We have to talk, Ethan. Come see me at the 5th Street Cafe tomorrow at 12. His startled stutter was a minor triumph, but it was sufficient. "Okay, tomorrow, Anna." After the call ended, I felt in control for the first time in days. The game had started, and I was playing to win this time. When I got there, the cafe was crowded with people going about their daily business. I noticed Ethan sitting tensely at a corner table. His attempt at a casual smile failed to reach his eyes as I got closer. "Thank you for coming, Anna." In an attempt to sound concerned, he began, I wasn't sure you'd want to see me." "I don't," I snapped back, sitting down on the other side of him. "I need answers, though. Why have you returned to my life along with Claire?" Ethan moved apprehensively. "See, Anna, we haven't had a nice time since... Well, after we went, we had some difficulties. Seeing him uncomfortable gave me a sour sense of joy. Difficult times? Do you think I'll be sympathetic?" He stumbled. No, of course not. Simply said, "Claire is expecting a child." For the sake of family, we believed it was time to patch things up. I felt the chill of his words. "Claire, are you expecting?" I had a little twinge of hurt, but it was soon eclipsed by doubt. "You also believe that I would, what? Open their arms to you?" With a tone of incredulity, I inquired. Ethan avoided looking at me and continued, "It's not just that. There is the issue of your father's estate and inheritance." And there it was, the real cause of their unexpected return. It was neither remorse nor a want for peace. It was avarice. "Ethan, you've got some guts. You leave after cheating and now you return to demand money?" Despite the public situation, I could feel my voice becoming louder and my wrath building. "Anna, people may change. We've experienced a lot," he begged. "We just want a chance to start over, to be a family." My pulse pounding with rage, I shot out, "A family built on lies and deceit." My phone vibrated at that very moment. Claire had left a message. "We must speak. My place alone tonight." I made up my mind as I glanced up at Ethan. "I'll see Claire tonight. Tell her, don't get me wrong, Ethan, this isn't a family get-together. I'm settling the score, here." Ethan's face dropped, his features etched with a mix of surprise and worry. I had a weird feeling of empowerment as I got up to go. I had been the victim of their self-centered behavior for far too long. However, the roles were now reversed. With my thoughts buzzing with potential, I left Ethan behind and left the cafe. There will be more than simply a confrontation when they met with Claire tonight. It would be the start of my retaliation, my opportunity to regain my honor and their sorrow for ever betraying me. I felt a range of feelings after dropping Ethan off at the cafe, including betrayal, rage, and most importantly, a renewed sense of resolve. Plans for the evening's encounter with Claire were racing through my head as I drove home. I had to be ready to defend myself from her deceptive methods. I stole myself as I stood in front of my mirror as night fell. The reflection revealed a lady who had been transformed by hardship. She was no longer the innocent young woman who had been seduced by Ethan or distracted by Claire's dishonesty. I was prepared to face and overcome my past tonight. Claire's extravagant, flashy home was a sharp contrast to my, and was evidence of her and Ethan's shallow morals. With my heart racing but my determination unwavering, I knocked on the door. Claire was standing there with her usual grace and haughtiness when the door flew wide. "Come on in, Anna. I'm happy you were able to attend." She spoke in a patronizing manner, as though she was giving me a favor by letting me into her house. I entered and looked around the opulent interior design. "Why am I here, Claire? What are you looking for from me?" "To go right to the point," I asked. Claire guided me to the living room with elegant yet strategic steps. "Sister to sister, I wanted to speak with you. I decided it was time to put the past behind us, since it has been too long and the baby is on the way." I nearly burst out laughing at her foolishness. "Put the hatchet away? You returned for my father's inheritance after stealing my husband?" Claire's face became stern for a second before she calmed down. "Let's be realistic, Anna. For our child, Ethan and I need to be financially stable. The estate of your father can assist with that." She was disgustingly greedy. "After everything you've done, do you think I'll just give you what's properly mine?" Claire's voice was brimming with fake sincerity as she remarked, "Anna, it's not just about the money. It has to do with family. After all, we're still sisters. I looked at her in disbelief. As soon as you betrayed me, you were no longer allowed to call me your sister. A tension lingered between us, and there was a pause. Then Claire's mask fell away and her own self showed. Okay, let's discuss the legalities if you intend to act selfishly. Dad's will favors the first grandchild, as you are aware. Ethan and I will receive the inheritance, thanks to my baby. Her remarks struck me like a blow to the body. This was her strategy to influence our father's will to her advantage by using her pregnancy as leverage. Claire, you're amazing. You believe that you can simply control everyone and everything to suit your preferences? Not this time, though. I will not allow you to. I spoke in a hard, uncompromising tone. Claire grinned, her gaze calculating and frigid. We'll see how long you can continue this good deed, Anna. My thoughts swirling at Claire's indifference, I turned to go. A plan started to take shape in my head as I drove away from her house. I now understood the terms of the risky game Claire and Ethan were playing. They needed to realize that I was no longer the passive participant in their perverse game. I spent the days after my meeting with Claire on high alert, getting ready for the impending court case involving my father's property. In order to shield my father's heritage and what was properly mine from Claire and Ethan's avaricious grasp, I sought legal advice. I received some startling news as I dug deeper into the legal nuances. The company that Ethan had launched with such bluster had failed. Their extravagant lifestyle was unsustainable and they were drowning in debt. Their abrupt reappearance and eagerness for the fortune were clarified by this discovery. I had a meeting with my lawyer, Miss Harper, a shrewd woman, to talk about our plan. She scanned the paperwork and stated, "They're in a financial and legal bind. There's no substantial legal basis for your sister's contention that the will favors the first grandchild. We can combat this." Although I knew Claire and Ethan wouldn't give up quickly, her confidence was comforting. They were dangerous and erratic, like cornered animals. Before I knew it, my determination was put to the test. Claire was waiting at my door one evening when I got home from work. She had a defiant, yet desperate look on her face. "We need to talk, Anna," she murmured in an unusually tremulous voice. I gave her a suspicious look. "Claire, I have nothing to say to you. Lawyers are presently handling this case." She moved in front of me and blocked my way. "Anna, please, I'm not pregnant. It was a fabrication, a foolish scheme that Ethan and I devised to influence Dad's decision to our advantage." I wasn't surprised by her unexpected confession. It was just one more trick in their extensive repertoire of manipulations. "You have been lying all along. Claire, what now? Are you prepared to concede?" With a chilly tone, I inquired. I was unmoved by the tears that filled Claire's eyes. "I'm at a loss on what to do. Ethan's company is in ruins. We're losing everything. Anna, I need your assistance." After all the suffering she had caused, her request for assistance seemed practically absurd. "Do you need my assistance? After all of your actions? You are truly insane." Desperately, she took hold of my arm. "Please, I'm your sister, Anna. Do you recall who we were before all of this?" I resisted, finding her touch disgusting. "The instant you deceived me, the sister I knew passed away. Claire, you made your decision. Live with it now." I left Claire standing by herself and went into my home, shutting the door behind us and our history together. It was a liberating sense of finality. Our unhealthy connection had freed me from its bonds. I came to the realization that this was more than simply a fight for inheritance that evening. As I sat by myself in the silence of my living room, it was an opportunity to finally put an end to Claire and Ethan's betrayal and move on with my life. It was a struggle for my own freedom. The weeks that followed were filled with intense talks and court cases. As their financial difficulties worsened, Claire and Ethan's despair grew increasingly apparent. In spite of this, I persisted, supported by both my newfound strength and Miss Harper's knowledge. The day of the pivotal court hearing then arrived. In sharp contrast to the smoldering emotions beneath the surface, the courtroom was sterile and frigid. Despite their seeming unity, Ethan and Claire's worn looks betrayed the hardship they were under. Miss Harper was thorough and exact as the proceedings got underway, using her legal knowledge to dissect each of Claire and Ethan's points. Their position was further weakened when Claire's lie about her pregnancy was revealed. I saw Claire come to terms with her predicament. She was no longer the self-assured, cunning sister I had known. Instead, she was a shell of the person she had been, devoured by the fallout from her deeds. Claire came up to me at recess with a request in her eyes. "Please, Anna, we're wrecked. Even though I know I don't deserve your pity, we have nothing." Her words, which had the power to influence me, were now ignored. "Claire, you brought this upon yourself. You opted for dishonesty and greed. You now have to deal with the outcome." For me, the ultimate verdict was a clear win. The fortune remained legally mine, sealed by the judge's final decision in my favor. Claire and Ethan's carefully laid plans crumbled like a house of cards, leaving them to exit the courtroom in bitter despair. As I stepped out into the crisp air, I didn't just feel victorious. I felt free. This was more than a court win. It was the long-awaited closure I had been yearning for. It wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine. It was about standing up to the ghosts of my past. The karmic justice that Claire and Ethan had evaded for so long had finally caught up to them, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their treachery. But for me, it was a release. Their betrayal, once a suffocating weight, was now a fading shadow as I turned my focus toward rebuilding my life. The scars they left behind would remain, faint reminders of the battles I had fought. Yet, they no longer defined me. In the days that followed, I rediscovered myself. I was stronger, more resilient, and clearer about my values than ever before. One evening, as I sat in my garden watching the sunset bathe the world in warm hues, a profound realization washed over me. True success wasn't in revenge or watching those who wronged me falter. It was in the strength and peace I found within, the ability to move forward, embrace fresh starts, and write a new chapter of my story. If you're captivated by stories of resilience, justice, and power of second chances, don't forget to subscribe to the SoraBook channel. There are more intriguing tales waiting to unfold in the next videos, and you won't want to miss them.